Hello, welcome back to Lamp Oil Stock, and today we are going to be talking about the fourth commandment, and you will be able to find that in Exodus 28 through 11.
That's remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. The 6th day shalt thou labor and do all work. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. And in it thou shalt not do any work. Thou shalt, any work. Thou nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heaven and the earth and the sea and all that was in them, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it.
Okay, so that is the commandment. Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. And you can find it in Genesis somewhere
I got that.
with the creation.
That is Genesis 2. If you start off with Genesis 2 and 1, thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he rested from his work which God created and made.
Thank you. So this one for me is very difficult. The other ones before now, they weren't too bad, but this one is very difficult for me. And you have people who say, okay, well, Sunday is the Lord's Day, which makes no sense according to this verse, because Sunday is the first day of the week, even according to Christians. So it couldn't be the Sabbath day. It is actually, the Sunday comes from the worship of the sun god, and that's how it gets its name. So when you're worshiping on Sunday, you are worshiping the sun god. However, we have to look at what it means. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Well, what does holy mean? If you go to Google Dictionary, it says dedicated or consecrated to God or a religious purpose, sacred. Well, what does that mean? It's dedicated or consecrated to God. Okay, so let's look up consecrate. And it says make or declare sacred. Dedicate formally to a religious or divine purpose. Well, if I look at that, then I can say that Sunday is the Sabbath day, because I just decided and declared that Sunday is the Sabbath day. So we're going to ignore those definitions, and we're going to go say, okay, well, what does the Bible say for holy? And the Bible definition for holy is apartness or set apartness, separation, sacredness. Okay, so it means set apart. So it doesn't mean that I declare something. It means that holy means set apart. So the Bible says, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. So on the Sabbath day, I am supposed to keep that day separate or set apart from every other day. And then he goes to explain, for 6 days I shall do all my labor and all of my work. But on the seventh, that I'm supposed to set apart. And in that, I shouldn't do any work, and I shouldn't let my children do any work. I shouldn't let anybody who works for me do any work. I shouldn't let my animals do any work. And this is not just for Hebrew Israelites. I can't let an Edomite do any work. Any stranger that is within my gates, I can't allow them to do any work. So now we got the Sabbath day where it is set apart. That means it's different from all the other days. Which also means that on all of those other days, I'm supposed to be doing work. For 6 days, I am supposed to be working. Now, what confuses me is work. What the hell does that mean? And I feel like, that there's this evil part of me that just won't allow me to understand what work means, because I don't want to understand what it means. I don't, when we came into this religion, I didn't come as a Hebrew Israelite. I didn't go Christian Hebrew Israelite. I was Christian who had gone away, and then let me just pull out the Bible and start reading, which led me to Jew. And so I did a lot of looking up what Jews did, and they had Jews that won't cut on a light. So if you want light in your house, you have to cut on all the lights before the Sabbath, because cutting on the light is considered work.
Well, now wait, hold on. You're right about that, but part of it was, like, they also wouldn't use elevators. They wouldn't use electricity because that was kind of like fire, so they didn't use it. They are very inconsistent. I mean, and not everybody believes it, and they are very inconsistent.
So this reminds me of, the Bible says that he didn't go to the right or the left. Now, my husband said, and I didn't look it up, so I'm taking his word for it because I trust him, that going to the right and going to the left means that you added stuff to the Bible or you took stuff away from the Bible. And so you have Jews who add stuff or take stuff away so that they don't make a mistake. Well, that's a sin. You might as well just sin instead of sinning by adding or taking away.
So when I say add to or take away from, and I want to clear that up. So let's say for this particular commandment, it says, remember the Sabbath and you shouldn't do any work. So there are groups of people that literally do nothing except lay around. That's all they do. They just don't do anything except lay around, because that way they can't be construed as doing any work, so they can't break the law. You see what I'm saying? I mean, that is adding to it by saying, well, we just can't do anything except lay around. That's too much. And then you have Christians, on the other hand, that simply go, well, as long as I remember that there's a day, it's enough.
If I go to church, I've done my job. However, nothing about this says that you have to go to church on the Sabbath. So if you're saying that you have to go to church, then you've added to, because you don't have to. It says you can't do any work. Now, it's a good time because you can't be doing any work to study the Most High, because anything that you do for the Most High is not considered work. Okay, so now back to this work thing. I look at the Bible and I take everything that I've read and it jumbles around in my head. So what instances have I seen of this being used? Well, there's a story of a guy who was picking up wood and they killed him. And so I'm like, okay, so if I pick up a piece of wood, is that work? Well, then I think, back in the day, they had to get wood to have fire, to cook, to have heat. And so him picking up a piece of wood is probably a lot different than me picking up a piece of wood.
Let me read that verse and we can talk about it. Okay, that is in Numbers 15, 32 to 36. Now, while the children of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man gathering sticks on the Sabbath. And those who found him gathering sticks brought him to Moses and Aaron and to all the congregation. They put him under guard because it had not been explained what should be done with him. Then the Lord said to Moses, "The man must surely be put to death. All the congregation shall stone him with stones outside the camp." So the Lord commanded Moses, and all the congregation brought him outside the camp and stoned him with stones, and he died.
So I look at that and I think, when I was a Christian, I thought, oh my God, that's so mean. But now that I'm not a Christian anymore and my thought process has changed, because it says that you must, be born again. It means forget everything you know and start over. So now that I've done that, I look at that and say, okay, yeah, he was stoned to death, but in the stoning of him, it saved his soul, because the punishment of sin is death. So he had to be killed so that he could make it to the kingdom. So now looking at that, it doesn't make me feel so bad about it. However, I don't want to be stoned to death. So I go back into my mind and I'm like, okay, so give me another story of somebody doing something on the Sabbath. And what I come to is, there was an animal, he fell into a ditch or a hole and he was going to die or something. And they go and pull that animal out because even though it was the Sabbath, they were, if they couldn't wait or this animal would die. And then Christ says, well, if you have to do it, then do it. And I look at that and I'm like, okay, so if I have to do it, then I can do it. But see, I know that my heart has a lot of evil in it, so it's hard for me to understand the difference between have to and want to. So when it comes to the Sabbath, I have, people who try to get me to do stuff, and they look at this Bible verse from one viewpoint of how can I do stuff that I want to, I think. Whereas, and what can I do to break the Sabbath? And I look at it in the way of how can I keep the Sabbath? So what I mean is I'm on a farm and I want to buy animals. Well, they have this, what they call a chicken swap. And that chicken swap is only on the Sabbath. So it's, I can't buy or sell on the Sabbath, so I can't go. But, I have a family member who will say, well, since you can only do it on the Sabbath, then we'll just break the Sabbath today and go do it. And because you have to. And I'm like, well, no, I don't have to. I don't need those animals. I want those animals, but it's not I have to have them, because I can order animals online or do something else. So
on a different day.
Yeah.
Let's make that.
On a different day, not on the Sabbath. So
wait, these two verses about the donkey and the one that we read just before that about the man and the sticks, that says something completely different to me. Okay, what it says, part of what it says to me, is that the Most High wants you. How do I want to say it? Like preparing, like thinking ahead. We know the Sabbath is coming. We're supposed to be working 6 days and then resting on the seventh. So this man is wrong for gathering sticks on this day, because he should have days before got his sticks together, knew that the Sabbath was coming. This is a day that is set apart, as you were saying earlier, to worship the Most High. That's what it's for. It is for us and Him. We're supposed to rest from our regular work and then worship Him on that day. So we should be getting our sticks together, getting all our stuff together before the Sabbath, so that we're sitting there. We're ready to do that.
You're right, but then it comes to, like, it's getting cold here. We don't have central heat. We have a wood burning stove. So we've gone out and we've bought wood and we have it at the house. But if I don't have it by the stove, is it okay for me to keep putting it in the stove if I have to walk outside and grab some more wood off my porch to bring it in the house? Or is that work? And I don't think so, because that's what we're doing. And if you think differently, please leave it in the comments so that we can look at it, because we want to do right. And then there are other things, like walking through my living room, going to the restroom, and I stepped in some pee on my floor. It was all squishy. I had it all over my foot. and I about lost it because, I'm yelling. We have different animals in our home. Some of them are legal, some of them aren't. And my husband doesn't want me to say what it is that we have, so I'm not, but I did it because there's so many laws.
What is an illegal animal?
Illegal
what does that even mean? I mean,
is something
it's
that
not like genetically designed.
our state says that you cannot own. And I own it because it brings us joy and happiness, and there's so many things that are you can't do concerning the Most High's laws, that when I find something that I can do that is going to bring me some happiness and some joy for my family, then I'm going to do it. And I don't care what people say, because man is not my master, and I don't follow their laws unless they are in conjunction with the Most High's laws. So anyway, I yell at my kids, clean up this mess. And well, I don't know which kid has to clean it up because whose animal did it. I don't know. And so my son assumes, one of my children assume it's their animal because they've been known to do this. And he's like, okay, I'll clean it up. And I was like, oh wait, it's the Sabbath. Wait until after the Sabbath and then do it. But does he have to wait? Can you just clean it up right now? Because that is nasty as hell. I don't know. But right now there's just this wet spot on my floor, and I can't take a bath. So talking about this story makes my foot remember.
Okay, before we go on, let's talk about let's talk about some details that have to do with that we look at when it comes to the Sabbath. Okay, so you can't work. All right, it is a time set aside for the Most High. So from what we do now, I'm trying to say, I'm not telling everybody else that this is how the Sabbath works. I'm telling you how we do it. How we take care of what we do with it. First off, during the time of the Sabbath, nobody cleans.
And my children love it. They love it to death.
And the reason we do nobody cleans is because of the idea that it's work. My kids view cleaning as work, so they don't clean. We do not enforce cleaning rules on we don't enforce their their chores. They don't do any work on the Sabbath. We don't cook. Once the Sabbath starts, we are done cooking.
Unless it's a high Sabbath.
That's correct. As you read through the Bible, there are certain holidays that are considered to be Sabbath, but it says for this particular time, this is a Sabbath, but you will have a feast. Or this is a Sabbath and you can cook. So that means that you on those Sabbaths, you are going to cook. But on the seventh day Sabbath, it says you cannot cook. It says you can't do anything. You can't do any work. So we don't do any work, including cooking. She said earlier we have a wood-burning stove. So unless we already have that fire built, or if that fire goes out, we won't restart it.
Another issue that we have with the Sabbath is, a lot of people want to do work on the Sabbath. We have family members, and if you ask them to do something for you, they always want to come do it on, the Saturday.
Oh, wait, that's something else too. That's something else too. When you were very clear earlier about talking about what day is not the Sabbath, which is Sunday.
Uh-huh.
But the Sabbath is Saturday, the day part of it.
It's Friday night when the sun goes down to Saturday night. So depending on what time of year it is, that time changes. How long it is changes somewhat. So it's Friday night to Saturday night, and like I said, we have family members, and they always want to do stuff on Saturday for us because they go to church on Sunday.
Yeah.
And well, Sunday is holy to them; they can't do anything, which whatever. It's completely against scripture. But Saturday, they have no problem doing all their work. So, a lot of times we have to tell them, well, then we just, you just can't help us then because we can't have you coming here and doing work.
Now, and that's another thing. If you notice, we start the Sabbath on Friday night. And this is from, it's in the Bible, the Most High, in the beginning, he describes all of his days. And he describes them all the exact same way. So if you look at if you look at Genesis 5, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning of the first day. If you'll notice, he says it in that order: the evening and the morning. So the Sabbath day begins in the evening on Friday till all the way through till the next morning. Till the next evening on Saturday. All right. So the Sabbath is from dark on Friday till dark on Saturday.
Right. Now, the way that we tell that it is dark is we go out and we look to see if there are at least two stars in the sky. And, unless it's overcast and you can't see any stars and it's just really, really dark, so there's no way it's not dark. But generally, that's what we try to do, is make sure that there are at least two stars outside, and then we know it is dark and all of the work must cease, or we can begin some work.
Yeah, and the reason we do it with two stars is because there must be two witnesses. For everything that you find in the Bible, it talks about the fact that there are two witnesses. So we make sure that we can see two stars. Now, I haven't seen anything that says that the rule is you must see two stars. That's not. But we do. We do.
Well, there is that one holy day where they tell you that you need to look and make sure that there are at least two stars. So
I'll look for that verse. I know what you're talking about. I'll look for that verse. I'll try to list it in the comments when we find it. But yeah, that's why we do it. There are two. We look for two stars, and that's how we know when to start. So, kind of looking back here for a second. We start on Friday night with a couple of when we find a couple of stars, and that's our signal. Okay, work is done. The other part about this is to remember that you're supposed to work 6 days and then rest. So we make sure that we have food for the next day. We make sure that we have, we've got our fire going. We make sure we have everything done ahead of time. And then when we start in the Sabbath, what do we need to do? That's our time to rest.
So, like I said, these are one of those things where I have to say, I don't know exactly how a person in their everyday life keeps it. I can only tell you what we try to do. We have some questions, like, I send my kids out to feed my animals, not to do a lot of work, but to throw some food at them because I eat today. So, I don't think that you should be mean or cruel to animals. And so I feel like they should have some food because I keep them, in a way that they can't just go out and get their own food. So I do feed them, and, I'm wondering if I should or shouldn't on that. We use the microwave to warm up food that, we've purchased in advance or that we've already cooked, but I don't like eating cold food.
We're still looking on that one.
Yeah, is using the microwave the same thing as
cooking?
Yeah.
But it's not now to bring this up, and this is something else. I feel like when you're talking about the commandments, sometimes it almost sounds like rule lawyering, where you're like, okay, well, I'm warming the food, I'm not cooking it, so that's not cooking. But and I don't want to be that way. I wish there was a bit clearer understanding on, I don't know, convenience or whatever you want to call it. I don't want cold food, but I also don't want to break the Sabbath.
Yeah. So we're still kind of struggling with this. If you have thoughts, ideas, please leave them as a comment.
Wait, we're not done.
We're not done.
No, I'm not done. I got
Okay.
another. Now I'll tell you something else.
Mm-hmm.
And you've forgotten about this, or at least you didn't bring it up. Our kids play video games. But on the Sabbath, we enforce the no competition rule. So there is. I mean, so the way this works is, let's say you've got, for us, let's say our kids are playing a game, and they're not playing against anyone. We don't say anything about them playing that kind of game. They're just playing a game with themselves, video card, whatever it may happen to be. They're not playing against. It's not about winning.
It's not competition, because there's Bible verses that talk about how being competitive is bad. So we don't let them do any game that, or video game or not, where they are competing. You can't try to race somebody.
Right.
You can't compete. So no competing games or anything are allowed on the Sabbath.
Right.
But we do allow them to play, because I don't think playing is work.
Right.
And if you find something or know something that says that's different, please leave it in the comments.
Well, the most important part, for me, the most important part about this particular video is that you out there are thinking about what it means, not just doing what you think it says or doing what other people say. I'm not trying to please don't think we're trying to get you to copy what we do. I at no point is the excuse of, well, Lamp Oil Stock said that my kids can't play video games, or my kids, or I can't clean up pee on the floor, so I'm not going to do it. The Most High is not going to accept me as an excuse for something. Please don't think so.
Please understand that we are never trying to tell you what to do, or whatever, because there's a Bible verse that says that if I lead someone in the wrong direction, then I'm going to pay for that. So I don't want to be wrong and then lead you wrong, because I don't want to pay for that sin. I got enough sins on me already. That's something I can do without. So that's why we try to be cautious and say, look up what we're saying and then determine for yourself, because that's what you're supposed to be doing anyway.
Right. That's the biggest thing. The biggest thing is most people they forget about this verse entirely, even though the very first word of this verse is remember the Sabbath. So a lot of people just go, oh, well, I worshiped someday during the week, so it's the Sabbath. Or my favorite, I was talking to one person and they were like, every day's the Sabbath because I worship the Most High every day. What? No, now you've confused Sabbath with worshiping the Most High, and that's not the point.
That's true, because I worship the Most High every day.
But that doesn't mean that every day's the Sabbath. I mean, that's not what that means.
My husband's not at home with me for 24 hours every day. So the Sabbath is around here, we love it for so many reasons. Because no buying or selling. I'm not, if on Friday day I have an issue about a bill and I'm worried about it, by the time the Sabbath starts, that issue is gone from my head. I don't have to worry about anything on the Sabbath, and it's wonderful. It's so freeing to be able to put all of those thoughts of the world to the side and just chill.
Now, let me tell you, it wasn't easy to get there.
No, it wasn't.
I work outside of the home, okay? So I have a job out in the real world, and when we first became Hebrew Israelites, I was in the Army and had to work every couple of Saturdays. I mean, it's just the way it was. I was in the Army and we met on Saturdays, so I had to walk away from that and say, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. But then I had a job. The job I had at the time It met every couple of Saturdays. A lot of the world works on Saturday. That's just a big time for it, and that's when I worked as well. So I ended up changing out jobs.
So what he's saying is the closer we came to following the laws, statutes, and the commandments of the Most High, the poorer we got.
Well, that's true. That is true. We make way less money now than we did then.
However, we are happier
than
we have ever been. We are great together. We enjoy each other's company. So the setback in finance is irrelevant compared to the gain that we have in our relationship with each other and our relationship with our children.
And that's something else. Sorry, I'm going to go back to the working on Saturdays for just a second. It is so easy to fall into a trap of money. Like I said, I had to change jobs and become a lot poorer to not work on the Sabbath. But once I started saying that as a requirement, like the job I have right now, when I went in for the interview, they were like, "Hey, is there anything do you have any issues working here?" And the first thing I said was, "I can't work on Saturdays. I cannot work on Saturdays." So what do? They're like, "Oh, well, can you work Friday nights?" No, I can't work Friday nights, and I can't work Saturday day. So it just becomes something that you say off the bat, "Hey, I can't do this." And
even with that, they still come to him and try to make him work on Saturdays, and
you just got to say no.
There's been a few times where we thought he was going to get fired because they said, "Well, it's mandatory," and he didn't show up. So,
and guess what? I still work there, and it's still good. We're going to talk about.
The Most High is good.
At some point, I do want to talk about work, and we'll do it at another time because this is specifically not the time to do it. But the thing is, when you say, "I'm going to keep the Sabbath," it's going to start affecting a whole lot of your life. A whole lot of your life is going to change because Friday night, Saturday day is going to become a time where you focus on the Most High, your family, and yourself, not the outside world. And with that being a thing, with that being something very specific that we say, this is our set apart time. This is where we're together and we're focusing on the Most High. If you notice, one of the things that I notice about the real world, outside. When I say the real world, I'm talking about outside of our
house.
Yeah, the outside world. That's when mass shootings happen. That's when all kinds of crazy crimes and all kinds of stuff happen. And you know what? I never worried about it. I am never worried about getting shot in a club. You know why? I ain't in a club. I'm at my house. I ain't worried about getting mugged on a Friday night. I ain't worried about it. Why? Because I'm at my house. I ain't worried about none of this stuff. I almost think that's why the Most High lets all that stuff happen, because you know what? Hebrew Israelites are at their house. They ain't worried about none of that stuff. Now, I mean, that's just a side. I mean, I know I just threw that in there. But seriously, hey, when did that... Oh, look, there was this mass shooting. It happened on Friday night. Guess who wasn't there? Hebrew Israelites.
So, what we're talking about is remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy, or keep it set apart. And this is your job as a follower of the Most High to follow these commandments. And we are doing... I'm going through the list of commandments and talking about it, not only to help us, but, a lot of people don't understand the commandments because people don't take time to try to break it down and talk to people to explain what the words mean. And I believe that everything needs to be related to the life you are living today, or it's meaningless. So that's what we're trying to do. How does this commandment affect what I'm doing today?
Absolutely. And not just today, because it affects all 7 days.
Well, yeah, that's true.
All 7 days. I mean, this when you say I'm just going to kick off on Tuesday, I'm not going to do nothing today. Well, it says 6 days you're supposed to be working, not you're supposed to be working 6 days. You want to rest? That's what the Sabbath is for. I mean, there it is. That's the rest day, not the not Tuesday. I'm not working Wednesday. Why? Well,
Well, we don't want to talk about that because it's back in the day. They were farming and they were growing food and they were tending to animals, and that was work. Today we go to the grocery store, so and buy our food. So that type of work isn't a requirement, and most people don't do it. We are doing it now. We're trying to get back to it, but still most of our food comes from the grocery store. And so as a stay home person, it's difficult to say, well, what is the work, now that it's cold. I'm not going to go out. I'm not going out to tend to any
animals.
garden. Well, I got to tend
gardens.
to the animals,
Yeah.
but I send my kids because it's cold. I don't do cold. I'm black. Okay, I don't do cold. So, but I ain't doing the garden or anything like that. So what is the work that they're talking about? And so, and how can I still do it? Anyway.
So the questions that we're looking for in the comments, or answers that we're looking for in the comments, is how do you celebrate the Sabbath? What is it that, and we haven't even talked about how we worship on the Sabbath. What we do when we're worship. We're not even going there yet.
Wow, yeah.
We'll have to
talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that at some point as well. But we're not talking about how you celebrate the Sabbath. We're talking about how you keep it at this point. What are you doing on the Sabbath, or what are you not doing on the Sabbath? Because we are kind of taking it on that.
And how hard is it for you not to do it? How many times does that something seem to come up that says, oh, well, I have to break the Sabbath? And are you finding reasons to not break the Sabbath? Because that's what I'm always looking for, is reasons not to break the Sabbath.
Right. Reasons to keep it? Is that what you're going to say? That's the positive? Reasons to keep it?
Yeah. Okay.
This has been Lamp Oil Stock. Hopefully you guys have found something out of this that really helps you, blesses you. So as you go through your day, we're recording this on the Sabbath. So we're trying to do work for the Most High, and that's the only kind of work we are allowed to. And to me, this is one of the greatest commandments after I began following is keeping the Sabbath. Saying I'm not working today, I'm going to rest, has been one of the best things, because the world does not want you to rest. It just doesn't want you to do that.
They don't even want you to understand. Everything about this world is about you breaking the Most High's laws. So you really have to dig deep and try to understand what He's saying to you so that you won't do that.
Right. So the most we can ask out of everybody is leave us a no. I was gonna say leave us a comment. No.
Or hit the like button so that we know that you are, enjoying the videos.
Yeah. But yeah, let us know what's going on. But in any event, we really want you to think about it. Spend some time on the Sabbath with your family, thinking about what the Sabbath means. And I hope you see that it means more than just, well, you know what, we're going to take 2 hours and worship the Most High, and then we're going to go back to our lives, back to your regularly scheduled programming. I hope you see that it means way more than that. It does for us. I hope it means way more than that for you as well. So like I said, this is Lamp Oil Stock. You can find us on Black Junction, YouTube, Media Cafe, a couple other places. No, those are the 3 places.
Yeah,
those are the 3 places you can find our videos. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and have a great day.
Bye.